Tvam, your holiness. He, indeed. Brahmavidam, of all brahmanas, or persons who understand what is Brahman. Brahma janati brahmanaha. Shreshtaha, you are the best. Sanskaran, ceremonies performed for reformation. Because by these reformatory activities, one takes one's second birth. Samskarad bhavet dvijaha. Kartum arhasi. Because you have kindly come here, kindly execute. Balayoho, of these two sons, Krishna and Balaram. Anayo, of both of them. Rinam, not only of them, but of all human society. Janmata, as soon as he takes birth. Brahmanaha, immediately the Brahmana becomes. Guruhu, the guide. Translation. My Lord, you are the best of the Brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyoti Shastra, the astrological science. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. You can repeat. My Lord, you are the best of the Brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyoti Shastra, the astrological science. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. So purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, text 13, Chaturvarnam ayashustam guna karma vibhaga shaha. The 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, must be present in society. The Brahmanas are required for the guidance of the whole society. If there is no such institution as Varnashram Dharma, and if human society has no such guide as the Brahmana, human society will be hellish. In Kali Yuga, especially at the present moment, there is no such thing as a real Brahmana, and therefore society is in a chaotic condition. Formerly there were qualified Brahmanas, but at present, although there are certainly persons who think themselves Brahmanas, they actually have no ability to guide society. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very much eager to reintroduce the Varnashram system into human society, so that those who are bewildered or less intelligent will be able to take guidance from qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana means Vaishnava. Everyone becomes a Brahmana. The next stage of development in human society is to become a Vaishnava. People in general must be guided to the destination or goal of life, and therefore they must understand Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The whole system of Vedic knowledge is based on this principle, but people have lost the clue, Mate Vidu Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnu, and they are simply pursuing sense gratification with the risk of gliding down to a lower grade of life, Mitrusang Saravartmani. It doesn't matter whether one is born a Brahmana or not. No one is born a Brahmana, everyone is born a Shudra. But by the guidance of a Brahmana and by Samskara, one can become Dvija, twice born, and then gradually become a Brahmana. Brahmanism is not a system meant to create a monopoly for a particular class of men. Everyone should be educated as to become a Brahmana. At least there must be an opportunity to allow everyone to attain the destination of life, regardless of whether one is born in a Brahmana family, Kshatriya family, or Shudra family. One may be guided by a proper Brahmana and be promoted to the highest platform of being a Vaishnava. Thus, the Krishna conscious movement affords an opportunity to develop the right destination for human society. Nanda Maharaj took advantage of the opportunity of Gargamuni's presence by requesting him to perform the necessary reformatory activities for his sons to guide them toward the destination of life. So, Tvam hi Brahma Vidham Shrishta. Samskaran Kartam Arasi Balyo Anayor Rinam Janmana Brahmano Guru. So, Om Ganat Miranda Shah Ganan Shanash Lakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So it appears that there's a contradiction here where Prabhupada says that if one becomes a Vaishnava, and actually everyone should become a Vaishnava, then one becomes a Brahmana, and then Prabhupada says we need the Varnashram society in which people are given different roles in society, such as Brahman, Vaishya, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. It's not actually a contradiction because the word Brahmana is used in many different contexts. And in each context it means something slightly different. Of course, the actual meaning of the Brahmana linguistically, of the word Brahmana linguistically, is one who knows Brahman. That's the direct definition. But there's also other definitions of the word Brahmana according to the context. A Brahmana may mean someone who's born in a Brahmin family, although Prabhupada says no one is born a Brahmana, but still you have, for social purposes, like in the case of Ashvatam, who actually wasn't a Brahmana by quality, but he was born in a Brahmin family, he was respected, even though he was Brahma Bandhu, which means the relative or friend of a Brahmin. He was respected as a Brahmana, and therefore he wasn't killed after he had attempted to kill Parikshit Maharaj, and after he had killed all the 5 sons of the Pandavas. He wasn't actually killed. He was actually dealt with in a different way that was akin to killing, but it wasn't actually killing. The jewel was cut from his forehead, and he was cursed by Krishna, and it smelled so bad that nobody would go near him for 5,000 years. Of course, the 5,000 years is up right now, so maybe he's joined the Krishna conscious movement, but that's another issue. So, in one sense, he was considered a Brahmana or a Brahma Bandhu. In another sense, he's not. So, the important sense of Brahmana is that one who knows Brahman. So in that case, even someone who is a Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra can be a Brahman. You understand? Even though his duty, according to the modes of nature, is the duty of a Brahman because of his psychophysical nature of the body, or his duty is a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, still he's a Brahman. In one sense, you can say that Arjuna was a Brahman, right? Arjuna was a Brahman because he knew Brahman. I mean, who knew Brahman better than Arjuna? Or the gopis and the coward girls were Brahmanas because they knew Brahman. Or Vidura was a Brahmana because he knew Brahman, even though ostensibly, he was considered a Shudra. And also we have the story of Ramananda Roy. Actually, it's interesting. We were talking about this the other day. Excuse me. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picked certain people, not in every case, but certain people to be at the forefront of the teachings of devotional service who were not actually from Brahmin families. I mean, you have the example of Haridas Thakur, certainly not a Brahmin family, not a Vaishnav family, Kshatriya family, or Shudra family. He was considered an outcast family. Outcast means, Malacha, Yavana, Yaksha, or something like that, something outside the Varnashram purview. So he picked him to be the Namacharya, to teach the Yuga Dharma, the Acharya of the Yuga Dharma, most important practice. And then as far as understanding the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself took instruction from Ramananda Roy. And as far as the most renounced person amongst the Goswamis of Vrindavan is Raghunath Das Goswami, who appeared in a Vaishya. Of course, his Vaishya family was sometimes considered a Shudra family, Kayashta. But he appeared in a Kashta family. And then you have so many great acharyas in our Sampradaya, such as Narottama Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who did not appear in Brahmin families. And so many acharyas who did appear in Brahmin families. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, first class Brahmin family from South India. And of course, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, although they had been considered to have lost their caste due to the association and work under the Muslim government. So in any case, you see all these personalities who, according to Varnashram, were not Brahmins, and Arjuna gave that example, and yet they illustrated the position of being topmost Vaishnavas, and Prabhupada said that being a Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmin. Understand the point? So, therefore, we can understand that in order to be that type of Vaishnava, or first-class Vaishnava, one can still follow their psychophysical nature. It's very important to understand the psychophysical nature. That's why Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita to follow his psychophysical nature in spite of being a Vaishnava. It's interesting. So that applies to us too. That, of course, I don't know if we should, I don't know if I should consider myself, or individually we should consider ourselves Vaishnavas. We should consider ourselves aspiring to take on the position of Vaishnava. So there has to be a little bit of humility there. So, in any case, one should understand the psychophysical nature and function in Krishna's service according to that psychophysical nature. And not only that, but Prabhupada wanted Varnashram executed for several different reasons. One is a fallback position for the devotees who weren't able to continue functioning on the level of Vaishnava. And secondly, as a strategy to engage society at large. So, what is Varnashram? Okay, Prabhupada here is quoting from the verse, Chaturvarna Mayashustam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. That the four divisions of society, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, are understood according to one's guna and karma. Now, what does that mean in terms of a Vaishnava? What is the guna and karma? Of course, the devotee is supposed to be Trigunya Vishya Veda Nish Trigunya Vavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitrasatvasto Niryogiksha Shema Atmavan. A devotee is supposed to be above the gunas. Mamchayo Vyavicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunam Samati Chaitan Brahma Bhuya Ayakalpata. You got all these verses, isn't it? The one who takes the devotional service, Mamchayo Vyavicharena, enthusiastically, Bhakti Yogena Sevate, and serves me with love. Sagunam Samati, he overcomes the modes of nature and comes to the platform of Brahman. So what does it actually mean to say that a devotee has guna and karma, when Krishna in fact is saying that a devotee is above these things? It's apparently a contradiction, isn't it? It's not actually a contradiction. It's that we have a body, just like, for example, you're a driver of a car, but you have to function according to the nature of your car. For example, I have a Prius. Unfortunately, it's not a Tesla, but anyway, I have a Prius. And if I wanted to enter into some drag racing, it wouldn't be a good idea, because my car will not allow me to do that. I was just in, I was in Fiji, actually 2 places. I have friends and disciples who own race cars, both in Fiji and in New Zealand. There were some pictures of me taking a race car with all the numbers and everything on the outside of the race car, and he was letting me drive it, and I was so happy and everything like that. So, unfortunately, we can't drive other people's bodies like we can drive cars. So, you're limited. You're limited by the modes of nature. That you're limited insofar as not how much you can become Krishna conscious, but you're limited insofar as what you can do in this world by the body, whether you like it or not. For example, just like if you get sick, you may think, oh, I can still do the same things. You can't do the same things until you get well. Or like Prabhupada gave the example, when he was old, he was watching the devotees jump into the Jamuna. And he was thinking, when I was young, and also gave the example when he was in Jagannath Puri, he would jump through the waves and swimming. He said, I can't do that now, but the desire is still there. So you have certain physical, psychophysical limitations due to the nature of the body and even the brain. You understand? Not the mind. The mind can become purified by Krishna consciousness. The subtle body is dissolved by the performance of devotional service. But as far as the body and, which is also the mind, your perceptive senses and active senses and things like that, you're limited. And not only limited, but you're attracted to a certain type of work according to the nature of this body. So even though transcendently your consciousness is on the platform of Brahman, your body is inclined towards certain activities. And if these activities are engaged in Krishna's service, then these activities are spiritual. Like even if you're engaged in cleaning the toilet. I know nowadays the devotees, they don't like to do cleaning so much. When I joined the movement, one of the first things the devotees told me, which I'd never done before in my entire material existence, was to clean the toilets. And I experienced happiness by doing that. Or cleaning Krishna's pots, which you usually told when you join the movement, that you clean Krishna's pots and what you clean in your heart at the same time. And Prabhupada said that even you clean the bottom of the pots. Generally the devotees are thinking that the bottom of the pots are not so important. There's a little soot on the bottom, it's not important. But the bottom, when you make it shine, even they understand that in the Navy and the Army, that you make these things shine. So anyway, by doing that, we experience transcendental happiness. So, therefore, if one engages one's body, which is inclined towards activities in even what we consider lower modes of nature, or let's say different modes of nature, then Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmatno Brahmanautam Brahmatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Then you're absorbed in Brahman. That is Samadhi. That's Brahman. However, in spite of that, you should not be exhibiting the negative qualities of those in lower modes of nature. So this is the whole trick. For example, you may be inclined towards artistic activities, which is a Shudra. And generally, a Shudra, if someone is a Shudra by nature and not a Vaishnava, Shudra means like lamentation, Prabhupada defined Shudra that way. Lamentation and hankering, Kanchati, Shoshati. And it means a lot of other things, like not controlling the senses, specifically anger, what we call Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jivu Vegam, Udara Pasha Vegam. So you have to be able to differentiate, which is the trick of engaging yourself in Krishna's service in spite of having a body that's, let us say, acclimated to the lower modes of nature or attracted to activities in the lower modes of nature. You have to be able to still function as a Brahman on a higher level. That is, control your anger. Even though you're acting as a shooter, your body, and that is a challenge. That's a big challenge because the body and the brain and the contaminated mind may incline you because of that nature towards lamentation, towards, let's say, your body, you have the body of a Vaishya, right? Towards acquiring more and more and more. You have to have the intelligence, the Buddhi Yoga, to be able to understand when to use that and when not to use it, like the tortoise example given in the Gita. You have to understand when to withdraw your limbs and when to extend your limbs. So that's a real challenge for people, especially if you have a body in, I don't want to say lower, different modes of nature. I have an ignorant body or a passionate body, because that's how you distinguish in the Varnashram culture. A Brahmin would have a body in the mode of goodness. Of course, the material Brahmin would be not complete goodness, not Shuddha Sattva, but mixed goodness, but mostly goodness. And then a Kshatriya, passion. So the natural, for example, a natural inclination of Kshatriya would be to be romantic. I don't know if that's bad or good. But anyway, it would be to be attracted to different women, have several wives or something like that according to the tradition. That's prohibited, of course, in Kali Yuga. According to the tradition, that would be the natural inclination of a Kshatriya. So the body may have that natural inclination, that's the point I'm making. Or the brain may have that natural inclination, because that's your guna and karma. But you have to be on the higher Vaishnava Brahman platform to be able to say no. That is not just like that politician's wife said, just say no. Who was that? Bush's wife, she said, just say no. So you have to be able to just say no, because that is not in tune with the goal of my life, which is to serve Krishna, which is to please my spiritual master. But that no, for a devotee, not for a Mayavadi, has to be based on bhakti. In other words, the motivation, I'm not saying motivation, the motivation should be love. That's why bhakti is so powerful. Because you can think of your spiritual master, you can think of Prabhupada, and just think, what would Prabhupada want? What would my spiritual master want? What would Krishna want? And I want to please them. So it involves identifying yourself as a servant of the spiritual master. And for those of us in ISKCON, as a servant of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So in other words, we may have impulses, whether they're due to the modes of nature or even spiritual impulses. But everything has to be gauged according to the pleasure of Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. And if we do that, because we may want to do so many things or we may want to yell at someone. I mean, modes of nature. Just like one important quality of a Brahmin, or Brahmin Vaishnava, or Brahmin, or someone in the mode of goodness, is that of forgiveness. I was thinking about this morning. You know, Prabhupada said that this is an essential. I mean, even in Bhagavad Gita, I was looking this up this morning. This forgiveness is given so many times as a godly quality. You know, the opposite of forgiveness is, of course, you always want to be vengeful, get even, never forgetting how someone did something to you. I mean, it's not that we necessarily forget, but we forgive. There's a difference. You know, sometimes we're in a situation where someone does something that may cause us pain. We don't have to forget it, because it may be productive to avoid that person in the future. But we should certainly concentrate on forgiving the person. So this is the quality that everyone, regardless of whatever psychophysical nature they have in this world, should be cultivating. Those particular Brahminical qualities. And at the same time, so anyway, the point is, it's a challenge. Because the body and mind and brain will be attracted to certain activities. However, we should use our bhakti. I'm not doing it because I love Prabhupada, I love my guru, I love Krishna, because love of Krishna is something really elevated. It's a little bit too elevated for me, but you know, at least down on Earth planet, you know, where most of us are like that. So anyway, so this is one point I can gather from this purport. Another point is the samskara. Of course, there's that famous verse, Janmana Jayate Shudra Samskara Bhavet Dvijam, which Prabhupada quotes part of here in the word-by-word synonyms. He says, Samskara Bhavet Dvija. That means, by samskara Bhavet, one becomes a Dvija, or twice born. Actually, the word Dvija is also used in Sanskrit in regard to a bird, because a bird is twice born too. A bird is first comes out of his mother bird as an egg, and then the egg is hatched later on. So, Janmana Jayate Shudra. The statement is that everyone is born as a Shudra, and also there's that other statement, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, that everybody in Kali Yuga is a Shudra. So here we're talking about samskara, which Prabhupada here refers to as a reformatory practice, or reformatory activity. So what is that reformatory activity? I know in the Western world we have like Malacha samskaras, which in most cases have nothing to do with reforming the person. Just like in South America they have Sweet 16 parties. You've heard of that before? That would be I wouldn't say it's a samskara, so a samskara doesn't mean a ceremony at a particular point in life. Like most Hindus think it's like that. Like it's at a certain point in life you have a ceremony. Like every year we have a birthday ceremony or party in which we have a cake and someone blows on the candle, or if they're a Vaishnava, they just wave their hands because you're not supposed to blow on fire. And they make a wish. But that's not really a samskara. That's just a party. So a samskara means something that reforms you. Now, how do you get reformed? And that word reform is quite interesting. Whenever I hear the word, I remember reform school. That you send a juvenile delinquent to. Isn't it? I mean, that's a natural connection I make. So how do you actually get reformed? Well, there's different ways you get reformed, or the consciousness gets reformed. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the most important way. Cheto Dharvana Marjanam Bhava Mahatvagni Nirvapana. That Cheto, your heart, and of course heart here refers to the soul covered by the subtle body. Darpana marjanam. Your heart becomes cleansed. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahabhadni rapanam. Because of your bhava, your existence. The word bhava is the word to be or being, your material existence in this world. Bhava mahabhadni nirvapanam. Becomes, anyway, so I'm not going to give the whole verse, but that is one type of reformation, cleansing of the heart by the chanting of the Lord's holy names. But the cleansing of the heart is the definition of a reformatory activity. So one's heart becomes cleansed by chanting the holy names, by getting the blessings of the Vaishnavas, by worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, the so-called reformatory or samskaras are not actually changing the person's life or blessing the person's life or creating good fortune. Only by activities that cleanse the heart. In other words, only by activities that are, let us say, at least in the mode of goodness and hopefully transcendental. So, Malecha reformatory activities such as, so many, and actually in Malecha culture, sometimes some of their activities are cutting off certain parts of the body at certain times. In the Jewish religion, they have that. I'm not going to mention what that is. I mean, how does that purify the heart? So, anyway, so this type of samskara is what we have to have in the Krishna conscious movement. So therefore, we follow some of the traditional Vedic samskaras, but there always has to be a devotional aspect to it. For example, one of the samskaras is the Garbhadan samskara, in which one is the impregnation in the womb of a lady by a man, of course. Nowadays, of course, by artificial insemination. But anyway, it's one is chanting the Lord's holy names, praying to the Lord. And there's so many samskaras, namakarna, in which one gets the blessings of the Vaishnavas. And you'll find in the story in the Krishna book that during each and every one of these samskaras, there's an elaborate charity given to the Brahmanas too, to get their blessings. So not only is the activity itself important, but the blessings of the Vaishnavas are essential in achieving success in these samskaras. So anyway, so this is what a samskara is. It's getting the subtle body purified, or the soul purified, the subtle body actually melting, or the material subtle body melting, and the soul purified by the association of Vaishnavas, by the Lord's chanting the holy names, by Krishna Katha, by spiritual activities, and this is what's going on. And so here we have Gargamuni getting ready to predict the future of Krishna and give the name Krishna and Balaram. So, any questions or comments? Yes?
One translation or way to speak of samskara is impression.
Impression, yes.
And so in one sense we understand that if we get initiated in Krishna consciousness, there's an impression left, and that's purifying. Or in the impression that before impregnation and Garbhadan samskara. Yeah. And the materialists, they get an impression, they go to Woodstock, so like that gives it a negative impression.
Right.
So isn't it a fact that the more things we do in Krishna consciousness, we brand ourselves, so to speak, in
yeah.
Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, these are impressions on the subtle body, which I mentioned before. And so basically we could be doing samskaras all day long. Or we're creating impressions all day long. And we're also creating impressions when we do things that are not Krishna conscious too. Like if we, watch some Bollywood movies or something. Of course, probably none of you here except for one devotee here watches Bollywood. Not sure. But if you watch some Bollywood, that creates an impression in life. Yes?
I was wondering about, I was reading this purport kind of Punjab, and on the purport by the Acharyas in regards to this verse, and it seems like, it sounds like the most important thing is that Varnashram requires a head that is guiding.
Yeah.
In other words, the sannyasi or the is guiding the whole society
Yes.
toward absolute knowledge so that people can engage in the process.
Yes. Oh yeah, obviously the head, like Prabhupada said, the head is most important in the body. Of course you can't have the rest of the person can't live without the stomach either. With the head, without the stomach you can't live. But the head is most important. Jai Radha Golokananda, Radha